All right, people. So our first review of the day is going to be for the film The Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey there. This epic film people have long awaited for here. People have been looking forward to. Some to see fail, some to see do incredibly well. Here you have also Christopher Nolan's writing this movie as well there on it, along with Homer there. Homer Simpson also helped also write this as well. But it is the story of the classic tale there, by Homer, and it's starring Matt Damon as the titular character of Odysseus there. And it's just a journey there of the character of Odysseus and his men there, basically after he fought in the Trojan War there, and his journey back to Ithaca there, where he has gorgeous, beautiful Anne Hathaway, Penelope there, who's in this, waiting on him there, about while his wife who has waited for him for over 20 years there, holding it down, still over 20 years there. You have where all these different suitors are coming in to Ithaca, to his place there, and just feet on the couch, all with full of mud, everything like that. You have asshole people like Robert Pattinson and Corey Hawkins there. Who Corey Hawkins, I don't know, it doesn't even seem like he's even interested in being just like a suitor for Anne Hathaway. He just seems like, hey, it's free food, is wine. He just revels in being an asshole there. And with all these different people vying to take the place of Odysseus while he's gone, who a lot of people after so many years think he's now dead. Then you have his son there who wants to take the place of his father and be the king of Ithaca there. Telemachus, who's played by Tom Holland there. So yes, it's this epic kind of journey, this movie that's close to being 3 hours. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes there, so just about 3 hours long. And like I said, this movie, a lot of controversy even before it came out. But now it is out. Finally get a chance to see it, and I saw it in the way it was meant to be seen, the way Nolan wants this movie to be seen. I saw it in glorious IMAX there. That's how I saw it there. And I'll just pass around and get you guys' thoughts on this. Mike, what are your thoughts on The Odyssey?
It's the most British interpretation of The Odyssey you'll ever get. It's a good movie, but it relies on your ignorance as a viewer to watch it. It's very smoothed over, watered down. It's with all of Nolan's resources, he really chose to make this just like somehow more simplified popcorn movie. And while it's very visually impressive, you can interchange this movie with like any group. If anything, this movie probably would have worked better if this was like a loose adaptation or retelling the way of Oh Brother Where Art Thou, where like Matt Damon was a character from World War II or World War I or like the Civil War or something. But with the big names, big faces, it reminds you that this is a blockbuster and it's just the most condensed popcorn, like appealing to the bottom barrel like fans of like cinema for The Odyssey. It's fine. It's good overall, but it's also just like it is definitely like there's a reason why there's a lot of classicists who do not like this movie. Just
Wow. Yeah, you were on the trailer reaction when we did that for the movie there. And you didn't really like a lot of the costume design of it, didn't think it was true to, Greek and the Greece and everything like
need to be true to Greek, but there's an aspect of like when you do historical fiction, you can do it like accuracy, or you can do it in a way where it's showing the character and the setting. Nolan chose neither, and I don't think this helps that this is a Greek story, and like historically, like a lot of like British culture is kind of like has been built upon like taking away like Greece from itself, and like a lot of cultural appropriation with that. Because like you do have to remember this was an actual religion and myth that did exist and does have a modern like cultural fall through. So just
okay. Interesting. And did you see it in IMAX there? Did you?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay. So I didn't get that on IMAX there. Nick, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. I just whenever a work like The Odyssey gets adapted, I always kind of just look at it as this is what this artist's interpretation of the story, what is their intention behind it. And I think Christopher Nolan, he's just one of the directors who, it's his job, and I think I posted a meme about this. It's his job to make shit that looks cool and does appeal to fans of cinema. And yeah, this movie really worked for me. It does utilize a lot of the tricks that Nolan likes to do, where he tells stories non-linearly. He goes back and forth between different settings and time, and he uses that to tell a character arc. And I really like what he did with the character of Odysseus and how it is kind of reinterpreting that story to say something about the nature of war and what that kind of violence does to somebody.
Yeah.
What say you, Neal?
I thought this was a really interesting fantasy movie that really did a great job of balancing the fantasy elements of the Odyssey with the more historical elements of it. And I think this movie worked for the most part really, really well for me. I really liked the layers to the Odysseus character they added, like Nick said. I thought that gave the story a lot of really interesting wrinkles that were added on as the movie went on. I will say there are some stylistic choices that don't entirely work for me, to be quite honest, and we'll get into that later on. But despite some misgivings with how this film is like constructed and stylized, I found the movie really engaging and engrossing and thought it worked really well.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. With this movie, I would say, I mean, Nolan, I mean, it's hard to bet against Nolan. I mean, he's one of the few directors we have today that can sell things just with his name, of going like, hey, it's a Christopher Nolan movie, you got to check it out just because of him in this movie. And coming into it, I've read the book a long time ago. My memory on it is very kind of very vague, very foggy on kind of what I remember here. And it'd be interesting in the spoiler review to, after I read the book again, to get back and what they kind of changed and kind of what they did. And, it's funny, we had a conversation about this earlier, talking about Emily Wilson, who was the woman who, translated the Odyssey there and then has a very harsh criticism for this version of it, Christopher Nolan's version of it. And the character, of Odysseus, I do kind of remember more from the book that he's kind of more of a scoundrel there and more of a trickster and more kind of not as honorable as the movie portrays him. And I think that's just like a Nolan thing that he tries with a lot of lead male characters, is that they are kind of very, upright and kind of more just there in some things and some aspects that he tries to do a lot of his movies there. And you mentioned how big this cast is. I mean, it's a stacked cast. I mean, all around. I mean, Matt Damon, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, John Bernthal, Lupita Nyong'o. There's some people in this movie who, are kind of names a little bit, but they only appear, like, they have such a small role. Like Mia Goth is in this, who's the servant of
slave.
Slave, but they say
she was a slave. She was taken as a baby. Just
who's in this, who has a very, very small bit part in this there. But I would say a lot of people in this, I mean, and then the people that was the most controversial casting of it, I mean, they're only in the movie for a little bit, and then the times that they're in the movie, sometimes they're not even playing the people you think they're playing. There's two people in the movie that is not playing the people that they think you're.
There was like a big hullabaloo about Elliot Page playing Achilles, which he's not even Achilles.
Right.
No, completely other different person there. So you have that, yeah. So Elliot Page is in this, and Elliot Page has a great moment later in the movie. Benny Safdie, who's also in this, who, I mean, he doesn't even talk until towards the end of the film as Agamemnon, and who's just there basically the ore farm. I mean, basically he's just there to kind of just show up and look cool with his kind of uniform there.
Which, hey, he does.
Yeah, but I would say that Matt Damon does a great job as Odysseus in leading this film, and really mostly, I mean, it is mostly on his shoulders, and I think he does it. But a person who's also, I think, to me, a big scene stealer is John Leguizamo, who also is like the slave of who's back in Ithaca there waiting on Odysseus to come back. And I could definitely see him being nominated for Best Supporting. I think he's that amazing in this.
Probably so.
Performance wise, Mike, Did you love anything about this movie performance-wise there?
I think most of the performances were pretty good. I could not get behind Matt Damon as Odysseus. He just looks like he came out of a Dunkin' Donuts. I was shocked by how much I liked Anne Hathaway as Penelope. I thought she would stick out kind of bad. Not to say she's a bad actress, but she's a very modern actress. But I think she did a very good job as Penelope. I think a lot of the roles are like mostly well assigned for if you're going to do like a more Nolan type of casting, because he does like big names over like aspects of like kind of authenticity. And like he's done this even since like his earlier movies, and that's always been kind of a criticism with him. But when it comes to Nolan as a like when he directs these characters, in there they are giving the performances they are meant to give. However, I think the aspect of like some actors like John Bernthal as Menelaus take me out so much of this movie. I thought I like Robert Pattinson as Antinous. I do think like he is kind of like watered down a bit by the script, and I think other aspects of like just what these characters are meant to be and how they're represented, but also like Nolan trying to make like in his attempt to like try and make a more complicated character somehow makes a more smoothed over, watered down character for the majority of them, especially Odysseus. And like without getting the spoilers, all the themes he does, I think of how much more simple and how well done they are in just like a few lines in both like the majority of like translations of the Odyssey and the Iliad as well. I just don't think like these performances were amazing for the most part. Ultimately, the biggest one does have to be Matt Damon, and I just can't get behind him as Odysseus.
What do you guys think about the performances, Nick? Do you think the performances are really great here? Are you sold on Matt Damon as Odysseus?
Yeah, I don't have a bad note on any of the performances in this movie. Matt Damon, he's kind of one of those actors who I write off a lot because of his reputation, him just being boys with Ben Affleck and like loving Dunkin' Donuts. But every now and then he kind of like surprises me with how much like range and depth that he has, and I really liked what he did in Nolan's interpretation of the Odyssey and with the character of Odysseus. I think the big standout for me, at least, is probably Robert Pattinson, who is kind of going on this insane run of great performances this year, and with each one kind of showing different layers and different range as an actor, and him just being the most pathetic sniveling little twerp in this was so entertaining to watch.
Yeah, he's also really good too. I mean, I think this movie's going to have a lot of performances that are nominated. Anne Hathaway, Robert Pattinson, John Leguizamo, I think, Matt Damon for sure. I think, I mean, all across the board there. What about you, Neal? What do you think?
Yeah, I thought the performances were pretty universally really good. I did buy Matt Damon as Odysseus. I don't really know if I buy him as like a Greek, to be honest, because like a lot of the accents are really suspect throughout this whole movie, to be quite honest. But
yeah, it's pretty much everyone's just using an American accent.
Right. But I thought all the performances were really good. The one that stood out to me, though, was Tom Holland, just because for a while I feel like he's been trying to get out of the Spider-Man shadow and be more of like a grown-up actor. And I feel like this is the first time I've seen him in a movie where he really convinced me that he can play someone that's not just like a early 20s web slinger. So I thought he did great in the Telemachus role, and he did a great job.
Is this his first big boy movie that did well? Usually he played like what a crackhead soldier that didn't do well.
Yeah, Cherry and The Devil All the Time were like his attempts at like big boy movies, and I like The Devil All the All the Time.
That would have Robert Pattinson in.
Also with Robert Pattinson in it, yeah.
When did he play a prostitute? Right? Wasn't there
that
a movie?
That was an Apple show, I think. I don't remember.
It was
the
a
name
show.
Of it.
Okay, yeah.
Oh
that
yeah, I remember that one.
Well, either, but just.
I know he's been trying to shed that for a while. He's like, no, I can really act. No, I'm not just Spider-Man and everything like that. And here he is.
Man spent some time on a real movie set and went back to Sony and Marvel and say, hey, we got to lock in for Spider-Man.
Right.
I know he said this is the last time he can play a boy, but it's like you could still play a boy in the future. Tom Holland just has
Motherfucker, we had
faces.
James Vanderbeek doing Dawson's Creek at 35.
Or like he has what do you call, like the Michael Cera kind of face. Like he just looks so young. Like,
Well, it's his voice too. I mean, his voice just isn't that naturally deep, so he always can play younger with it. But yeah, Tom Holland was great, I thought.
Yeah. So he finally stepped up, and I think he did well in it. And when they go on this kind of journey, and when you see it, and you know, it has these good horror movie section parts in it too, and Nolan is actually interested in doing a horror movie now. After the parts, you know, like when you see with the Cyclops, and that works really well. I thought that was really good. The scene when they visit Cersei there, I think that's really good. I think that's a great sequence. Good small part there. I think, what's her name again? That actress who played Cersei.
That's Samantha Morton.
Samantha Morton. Yeah, she showed up and she did really well. In that just one section she was in. So I think that really worked incredibly well. So they're like seeing this journey, you know, of them going to like of how they've pissed off the gods so much, or even if there are gods in this, because this movie tries to be try to ground it in more of a realistic take and not bring in so much of the gods and all that into it. Mike, what is kind of your thing on that? I mean, being a person who, you know, you have a fresher memory of the book, what are some things you don't like that they changed from the book the most there?
It felt like Nolan's just kind of at odds. I don't think he's the right director for this. I think this is like if you ask Guillermo del Toro to do like I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, like fundamentally what the director's core themes and what he wants to explore is very different from what that book's theme is. And I think this is an issue Nolan faces with the Odyssey, because the Odyssey is I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, he was trying to make something more entertaining. The Odyssey is a very it has several moments of levity and comedy, and the gods are very important in the story, and removing them is kind of a big issue because again, you do have to kind of consider like, okay, what are you doing? What are you saying when you're like removing them from like a cultural standpoint and we're making them more ambiguous? And when you do that, so a lot of the characterizations kind of become somehow more flat, especially with the fact how they interact with characters like Penelope. And again, aspects of that kind of becomes an issue, and just like Zendaya showing up every now and then to just pose like she's in a perfume commercial. Just
she reprising her role from the first Doom, man. She's in the Revlon commercial.
I still haven't seen that. I need to watch one of the new Dune movies eventually. I've only seen David Lynch's Dune. Just
okay, hey, missing out, man. The trilogy is ending, man. You gotta watch it.
There's a TV show, I think, but like, when it comes to, I think it's just that aspect of like, if I were to like ask Nolan to do a Greek mythology movie based off a story, I would probably do something like The Labyrinth. I think he would like do something much better with that, even if it's just like from the perspective of a certain character. But it's just like, I think Nolan's so enraptured by the idea of the Odyssey being the foundation of the West that he kind of forego all aspects of cultural relevance in the Odyssey, the actual like background with it, and how important so many of the gods and characters are in that story.
So you think it's just too modern? You think it's
kind of? I think he can't really. Emily Wilson, interestingly, brought this up in her bit where she says like he has a tough time kind of making characters out of his worldview, and I do think that is relevant. Just
okay, yeah, interesting there. Yeah, I have to get her thoughts. Yeah, see what her thoughts on this are there, because she, like I said, she's another harsh critic of it. Yeah, but I mean, what did you guys think about Nick and Neal there? Neal, what did you think about some of the sequence? Did you have a favorite sequence of this movie there?
I thought the Cersei sequence was brilliant, honestly. Like, when she ends up doing to the soldiers is like genuinely really interesting to look at from a visual standpoint. And I thought, it had a really good story. The other sequence I surprisingly really liked was the Hades one. I thought the depiction of Hades was like, that definitely leads more into the fantastical because it's Hades. But at the same time, I thought the actual way the shades were depicted were really subtle and interesting, and not all like ghosts you typically see. And I thought those two sequences really stood out from a sort of a gritty stylistic standpoint for two very different reasons in interesting ways.
What about you, Denny?
Yeah, for me, probably the standout sequences for me are the stuff in the cave with the Cyclops. If you know, I know Nolan has talked about like wanting to make a horror film after this, and those are pretty much like his like foot in the door with that and the Cersei sequence. Besides that, I think the third act and the ending of this are some of the best stuff that Nolan's done in a very long time.
Yeah, and thank you, Neal, for bringing up the Hades. That was also another great sequence, the Hades sequence there. I thought that was also really awesome. And then the last part of this movie as well, when you get to the last third act of it, I mean, I think that really goes off, and I think that really pays off. In this movie, I mean, even though it's 2 hours and 40-something minutes, I mean, I didn't feel the length at all. I thought it moved by at an incredibly great pace. I think it's somewhat a little slow kind of getting into things, but I think overall, I didn't feel the length at all with this movie. There was another movie I'm about to talk about that was only an hour and like 50, but I felt every minute of that shit. That shit like felt like it fucking took forever. With that, and then also as Nick mentioned there, this kind of way he's kind of throwing it in there of like war, and then Odysseus there being this who violated what they constantly bring up in the movie, Zeus's law, and him. Kind of bringing that and how he kind of violated that and the tolls that he pays on that, and then what his men are doing out in the sea, and then how those stories are spreading. And then when he gets back to, and we see stories of how they're repeating it in Ithaca and has even got to his homeland. I think all that stuff it works really well there. And the way that Nolan, I think, is able to balance, both the Odysseus stuff and then back in Ithaca, I think works really well. I think that's pretty good. I would say, not say I think this movie's perfect all the way through. There's some things there. I think the Cyclops thing, I think it would have been better. I mean, if they did it more like the book, like this whole kind of riddle kind of aspect they had of that, I thought that was pretty good in the book. I wish they brought that in there with that. Then the whole kind of thing of maybe some of the stuff with the, the Trojan horse, of how like they had it on like kind of the beach and everything like that. Why didn't they kind of just bring it closer to the mainland a little bit? I guess you could say that. But I did like the Trojan horse of like how it's like you don't think about the logistics of that, of all these dudes stuffed in there, and then the fact that they're all shitting and pissing on top of each other, and they were there for days waiting for that. Like you don't really think about all that, and they brought that to it. You scoffed a little bit. Mike, you didn't like the Trojan horse?
I did not. It's so ugly. It bothers me so much. Why is it in the fucking ocean like that? It's just like, this is also kind of an issue when you remove the gods of like a lot of like what makes the Trojan horse work is kind of like wrecked a bit to a degree.
Do you want to see Elon Musk? He's doing the Odyssey. He said he's getting.
I hope he has a stroke. Like again, I hope he dies soon. I don't want to hear Elon Musk either. As it's just like, yeah, but.
So this was the horse, and you can get a popcorn bucket. Didn't you guys get the horse popcorn bucket for the Odyssey?
No,
did not. No.
Okay. In this movie, people, you have some people who hating Odyssey so much they're going back. Man, I miss Troy. Now that was a really good.
Christopher Nolan wanted to direct that, funny enough.
He was like one of the first guys attached to direct that.
I don't know. Do you have the same kind of criticisms of Troy as you do the Odyssey there, Mike?
I have the same amount of criticisms. I think they're just in a different direction for the most part. Though, yeah, like there's definitely going to be overlap, but it's like they do have very different issues. I think the aesthetic of Troy does work a lot better, and I really like half of the casting for the Troy movie.
Right.
Other actors I don't think really work, but also there's some strange changes as well, of like making Troy like only a few days instead of like 10 years. And you can kind of tell he was so contractually obligated to be in this movie. Brad Pitt is a weird choice for Achilles.
He did not want to be there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like from what I understand, he backed out of a different movie, but because of contractual obligations, had to be in Troy. And yeah, Brad Pitt's a great actor, but I'm not entirely convinced he's the right pick for Achilles.
Mm. Well, back to the Odyssey here. Give you guys final thoughts and rating for it. Mike, what are your final thoughts rating for the
I'll give
Odyssey?
it a tune in. Like other
Mhm.
people are gonna like it more. And it's that just the aspect of like the average movie going audience member is going to really like this, and that's fine. But it's just like Nolan does what Nolan does best. He makes like big blockbuster movies, which is good. And like this isn't like a poorly made movie at all, but there are just like a lot of aspects of like, yeah, there's going to be a big subsection of people who are not going to like this movie, or I'm not looking forward to the influence that this movie is going to have in the future. So just,
What do you think is that influence?
I think just the aspect of like how people talk and will adapt stories like this, and just how they go about like aspects of like more modern, like almost like tangential casting to a degree, and like also just how they be like, oh, we're approaching, like kind of thinking almost like simplifying the original story to try and prop up Nolan. It's like, no, the story had this complexities. If anything, it had more complexities than Nolan's take. Nolan's take is it's very watered down, but is the best way I can put it. It's kind of like the wine Odysseus has on his ship, where in the original it's so strong that you have to like it's undiluted wine, you're meant to like put water in it, but like he had that and he put water in it and he gave it to people, and so it's sweeter now, but like more people can consume it a lot faster, and so it's going to like be shared a lot more, but people are going to think it's super strong. It took a while for me to get that metaphor, but I did it. It's just like,
Went on the Odyssey to get that metaphor.
yeah.
All right. Gotcha. Okay, so tune in for you for Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Gotcha. What about you there, Neil?
I thought this was a really, really interesting interpretation of the mythology of the Odyssey. I thought it combined sort of the gritty, tactile feel that Nolan always does with his movies and fantasy in really interesting and nuanced ways. I don't think all the stylistic choices work. My main issue is just that I think that a lot of the accents and dialogue don't really match with the scenery and like the overall production of the movie, to be quite honest. But at the same time, I thought the movie was really engaging and narratively really rich throughout its whole runtime. And I thought that this is a really good movie. Not Nolan's absolute best movie, but still a very worthy entry into the Nolan canon. This is peak cinema for me. A low peak cinema, but peak cinema nonetheless.
Some people say this is the best Nolan movie. There are people already ranking it that high. They say it's better. It's the best Nolan movie.
Yeah, The Prestige still exists.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer still exists.
What say you there, Nick?
Yep, I'm kind of right there with Neil. I really enjoyed what Nolan did in his interpretation of the Odyssey, adding playing with that kind of like very grounded, tactile feel that he really enjoys playing with, while also doing the light touches of fantasy that are going to anger a lot of people who are fans of the original source material, but it worked for me in this interpretation. Technically, this is one of the most impressive films of the year. Just what he managed to do almost 99.99% practically in the full scale in the IMAX camera. It's impressive to watch, and narratively it's one of the more engaging films that I've seen this year. I really enjoyed this. I give this a very strong peak cinema for me.
Would you,
like Neil said, I feel like some of the stylistic choices, I don't know if Nolan would have been the best choice for a lot of them, but it worked for me more often than not.
Yeah. Would you, Nick and Neil, would you guys go see the movie again?
I might.
Probably. Maybe on streaming, but probably.
It's my nephew's birthday next week, so I might take him to see either this or Spider-Man.
Yeah. I don't know if kids will be bored by this. I don't know if there's enough action in it for them. They might be scared by the Cyclops. They might get scared by that. I don't know. Wasn't Emily Wilson one of her complaints that there wasn't enough like sex in it? There wasn't enough sex scenes.
Kind of. I mean, Nolan's not a super like sexy director.
I mean,
No.
you saw how he directed the sex scenes in Oppenheimer.
Well,
Or in the Dark Knight Rises, for that matter.
yeah. This movie's doing really well. This movie's already crossed over 700 million, so they've already said that this movie's going to make over $1 billion. It's going to be one of the movies to make $1 billion this year. I think it's tracking at 1.3 currently right now, so huge reaction there with this. A lot of people going to go see it. And Christopher Nolan, I mean, like I said, I mean, he's one of the best guys doing it out right now. I mean, for all the stuff, what he brings to filmmaking, they're making filmmaking, and when he has a film out, like it or love it, it's an event. It is you got to go see it for that reason there. And I think that's very impressive. And with that, and like I said, he's one of the few directors that can sell a movie just with his name of like, hey, it's a new Christopher Nolan movie there. And I think that's also really impressive. I mean, he had a biopic about a dude who made the atom bomb that almost made $1 billion. I mean,
So people won't know that his brother was a hitman who was also named Oppenheimer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of people think that's why Nolan made Oppenheimer, because he has a brother named Oppenheimer Nolan. And so when you look up Oppenheimer Nolan, the movie comes up, not his brother, who's like a professional hitman. Just
wow, I didn't know.
Interesting.
Professional.
I did not know that.
Okay, interesting ass family you got there.
kind of like Woody Harrelson. His dad might have been involved in the JFK assassination, but just
didn't his brother kill like a cop or something? His brother.
Nolan
Or kill a judge, right?
Harrelson. Yeah. Woody Harrelson's father killed a judge.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, Nolan said, epic filmmaking, epic storytelling there. And then, like I said, the whole list of the performances in this. I didn't even get into the guy. Is his name Hamish Patel there?
Yeah. He plays Euroclus.
Who I think he does really well in this as well. He's kind of, I guess, one of his best crewmates, I guess you could say, on the ship.
It's his brother-in-law, so that's why he's the second in command. He just got that position through nepotism.
Okay. Which they don't bring that up in the movie, I don't think. Do they? Do they say? I don't think they say that in the movie.
No. A lot of characters in the Odyssey get like mentioned twice, and they get their role mentioned a few times. Euroclus gets a few more mentions because he is technically almost a semi-antagonist in the Odyssey, but just.
Okay. Yeah. And he was really good too. I thought he was very good. I think he's going to be in that X-Files show. Ryan Coogler, I think.
Yep.
I think he's going.
Yeah,
he's
he's in Coogler's X-Files with Danielle Deadweiler.
Okay. Yeah. And there's so many people who just kind of come in. Lupita Nyong'o, who kind of comes in for a little bit there, and her dual role, and I think she's good. Yeah. Samantha Morton, who's Cersei. Great sequence there. So, I mean, even if I think like if you have a person who's like maybe on the side of Michael who was a little bit hesitant to watch this, who was like, oh, well, it's the closeness to the book and the historical accuracy of it. I still think even from a filmmaking perspective, you can really enjoy it from just like they said. I mean, the actors on this working on this movie who said this was the most difficult set they've ever had to work on. I mean, Matt Damon actually got PTSD, just like Odysseus working on the set of this film. So. Just for that alone, I think you might even really appreciate it. And the music also I thought was pretty good. Did you guys like the score of this movie as well?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's the third time he's worked with Ludwig Göransson, and hey, they haven't missed yet.
Yeah, the score is pretty incredible. I thought one of my favorite scores of the year so far.
Yeah, another Oscar for Ludwig.
Potentially
as well.
I mean, it's
might be 4P.
Nolan, so.
Yeah, I don't know who did the score for Project Hail Mary. Who was that? He might.
That was Daniel Pemberton.
Yeah, I don't know. He might get it. He probably might get it this time.
That's good too.
Yeah, that was great.
So for me, I'd give it a lowish peak for me for the Odyssey there. So peak from Neal, peak from Nick, but a tune in from Mike for the Odyssey there. He's the Cyclops. He's the Cyclops. He hates
fuck Odysseus.
Make me Poseidon then. Just
Poseidon. Good old Poseidon.
Right.
Oh, you're Poseidon. Yeah, nothing wrong with being Poseidon there. Very good there. All right, guys, that was our review of the Odyssey. Thank you so much, Mike.